And now, here's your host of Shaping Success, Wes Tankersley.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to Shaping Success. I'm your host, Wes Tankersley. Today I have another great episode for you. We'll talk about our guest in a minute, but I just want you to know that this is kind of the way that I do things. I have an interview style that is me observing what other people talk about. And our next guest, his name is Robert Watson. He is a person that I met on TikTok, and he just inspires me every day and many other people. And he's kind of doing a similar thing to me, except for he has a little bit more experience than I do. So without further ado, here is Robert. Robert, how are you doing?
Good, man. Are you suggesting experience means I'm older?
Maybe. But that's okay. That's okay, because those experiences are the things that are important. I'm older too, than a lot of the people who follow me. So it's interesting to see how that goes. But we talked a little bit beforehand about things being about, like the stories and the things that you go through that kind of shape you. And I think that the more we're on this earth, the more stories we have to tell. And I'm just excited to share your story.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I found through the years that that's what sticks with you. You always remember someone's story. Facts are real, inconsequential compared to a good story.
Yeah. Well, why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about who you are, kind of like where you grew up and a little bit of your life experience, kind of a brief synopsis of who you are.
I'll kind of start forward. About a year ago, a little over a year ago, I decided to kind of come out of retirement and start Beyond the Hype Media because I saw a chronic need to be able to clarify and to get people and leave a legacy for my kids. And so basically, I decided that I could use the things that I learned in my life to do what's called predictive thinking. In other words, I could tell people, hey, listen, look at A, B, and C, and you're going to get D.
Right.
And they're like, well, you mean you're predicting? I said, well, yeah, kind of. I said, you'll begin to see how that works in your life and how it's really, really useful. If you want to go from point A to point B, you better know what that looks like. And my background began way back in the Cold War, where I served as a senior intelligence analyst attached to Deputy Chief of Staff Intelligence, United States Army Europe. And we were in what's called the Studies and Exploitation branch. So we were very, very good at being predictive. In other words, looking in an area of operations. And our first one, surprisingly enough, was Poland, back in Lech Walensa's days in Solidarity. And basically it was the idea of, how reliable is Poland? Then we went on to Yugoslavia and Turkey. And that shaped me because that taught me how to think. It taught me how to think in a completely different way. And it also taught me that you can't focus at all on what you see in the media. You've got to get boots on the ground kind of attitude. If you really want to know what's going on, you got to get on the ground, find out. Because everybody has an agenda and their agenda is not yours. And if their agenda is not yours, that means that they're coloring the story to fit their agenda. And you're trying to say, listen, hey, man, I need to get my agenda in here, not yours.
Right. That's got to be an interesting, in these times that we live in, you probably have observed more than you thought you were going to in the last couple of years, I'm guessing.
Oh, gosh, yes. One of the things that I stopped doing a couple of years ago was watching TV because it requires too much filtering and sorting. I literally have to sit there during a broadcast and go, really? No, forget it. It's easier for me to take in data the way I take it in is to basically look at an online newspaper and flip through it and look for data that I can extrapolate than it is to listen to someone's opinion. Because unfortunately, whether it's right or left, it's terrible. Let's put it that way.
Well, it's
That's the
interesting.
nicest way.
Yeah. Well, and it's great though, because that's the way that most people need to start thinking, because it's about numbers, right? Like we look at the numbers, and if we have the actual data and the numbers that prove that something is one way versus the other, you're going to make a better informed decision rather than just listening and taking someone's word for it.
Yeah, there was a really interesting piece of data that I started off with. One of the first things I blogged about was a bunch of the talking heads before the 2016 election were saying that the stock markets loved Hillary Clinton and they hated Donald Trump. If Donald Trump got elected, and again, I don't care one way or another in all full disclosure, I know Hillary Clinton. So in full disclosure, I've met her. I know Bill. So we have to put that in context. So I'm not trying to be positive or negative. I'm just stating the
Right.
facts. When you pull the data up, you see people leaving the market in droves prior to the election. And according to the data that you saw, Hillary Clinton was well ahead. Well, the minute Donald Trump gets elected, the markets rocket ship up. So it was exactly the opposite the way the talking heads were presenting it at the time. And the data was available for you to look at. You could see what was going on. And they were basically preaching a straight out lie,
Right.
bold-faced lie. And you can do that remember where I came from in the Cold War. So I'm looking at a Soviet newspaper. What is it? It's 80% propaganda.
Propaganda. Yeah.
Okay. And what's our newspaper? 60% propaganda. Okay. So you can imagine me, I'm sitting there going, okay, well, I can use this, this, and this, but I can't use any of that.
Right.
And that's kind of the world I grew up in. So it wasn't that people were mean spirited, they just had an agenda, and you just accept that. You accept that they have an agenda. You don't get mad, glad, or sad. You just go, that's their agenda. Fine. I need to filter that.
Yeah. Well, and it's crazy because one of the things about these posts that you make on, I believe you probably record them and then you put them on both Instagram and TikTok, because it's always good morning Instagrammers and TikTokers after you've done your daily run. And
still sweating, mind you.
Yes, still sweating for sure.
Still sweating.
Which is an awesome. We'll talk about that because I think that's a super cool thing that you have all these days that you've done the same thing over and over again, and you're continuing to work on that every single day still. So that's awesome. We all need to work on those types of things. But your motivational facts or things like that are based on the fact that, you know, it's a lot of this is in between your ears. This is you. These are the things that you have to make the choice to do. And if you don't, then you're just kind of one of the zombies that are walking around and doing what everyone tells you to do, right?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I always love for people is I always say, okay, you want to learn how to have a better relationship? And they say, yes. I said, go to the bookstore. And they go to the bookstore and there's shelves and shelves and shelves and shelves and shelves of books. And I said, so pick one. They said, what do you mean, just pick one? I said, yeah. I said, it's not going to work. And they said, I don't understand. I said, if there was a book that worked, there'd be one and it'd be on the shelf by itself.
Right.
That's all you have to think about is realizing if there was one workout book that worked, it would be on the shelf by itself.
Right.
Right. You know, as I realized, you know, you just understand that it is what it is. Just accept the fact that people are trying to massage things and it's okay. Just don't worry about it. But realize you've got to be the one to do the homework.
Yeah. Where did this come from? Where did this mentality come from? Because like I know a lot of the ways that I think and a lot of the things, you know, their life experiences, but there was someone in my life that told me that this was something that is possible, right? Like I think back to my football coaches and a lot of the ways that I am, how I am. I think about my parents, how they taught me to work hard and things will take care of itself. Where did this mentality come from? Was it just something that was ingrained into you when you were young?
Well, you know, the one thing I always say is I'm not a very interesting person, despite the fact that my son thinks I'm really interesting. I'm not a very interesting person. The people I've met have made me interesting. I have had incredible coaches. I've had incredible commanders. They have made me. I mean, I guess I was coachable. But for example, one of the things that I was working out for my second attempt at the NFL, and I got to benching 515. And I'm working out, and I've got a strength coach and all that, and spotters, and that's fine. My strength coach pulls me aside, and he says, you know that when all this stuff's over, he said, you got to get a workout that you can do for the rest of your life. And I looked at him, and I went, huh? What are you talking about? He says, you got to get a workout that you can do for the rest of your life. And I just kind of pondered, you know, and of course, you know, benching 515 is obscene. But the point is he was saying that the extremes you're doing in your 20s are not going to be repeatable. This is not something that's going to sustain you through life. You've got to find that which sustains you. As you can see right now, the runs that I have and the streaks that I have are all based upon his wisdom. He said, find something and do it for the rest of your life. Okay. That's the wisdom I've picked up from people along the way. That's why I say I'm not really very interesting. The people that have come into my life are really interesting.
Well, I think that life's kind of a collaboration, right? No one invented anything. And
Oh God, no.
it's what we glean from the people who have seen what's going on that helps me, right? Like this conversation
Absolutely.
with you is I'm gleaning things from you that are going to help me in the future, and that's kind of what you did. But it's amazing that the collaboration of life, that people think that their ideas are original and they came up with that. It's
Oh no, it's insane because there isn't anything. I mean, I even feel bad about putting my name on something because it's like, okay, yes, I wrote it, but it's not me. It's 10,000 people that have rubbed against me. A person that I talked to the other day, I went, wow, okay, and that person caused me to think a different way.
yeah.
And it's because they were doing something that I believed was inherently wrong. And I said, and I didn't say that to them, but I went, but why are they doing it? That's what I want to know. So a lot of times I learned not from the direct wisdom, but I learned from somebody doing something inherently wrong that obviously was making them miserable. And I couldn't figure out why they wanted to do it over and over again.
Right. I want to go back because you said something that just kind of piqued my interest. You said my second attempt at the NFL.
Yes.
Tell me
Yes.
about the first attempt. What's this all about? Did you play in the NFL?
No. What happened was I was the quarterback, and I was the quarterback class of 83. Now all you have to do is go back and realize how many of those guys are in the Hall of Fame. That's Jim Kelly. I mean, so I had a shot to play for the Houston Gamblers, right? And in the off season, it was like, you're going to get a shot. Well, they drafted Jim Kelly. Well, that ended here I am as a kind of nobody, and Jim Kelly walks in. And so that kind of ended that stint. So the interesting part was I got to know Jim Kelly just passing out at clubs and stuff. And he finally says to me, hey, listen, come up and why don't you come and try for tight end? He says, you got great hands. Why don't you come play? And I was like, okay, well, let me think about it. Let me get in shape and all that kind of stuff. Well, guess what happened next? The league folded.
Yeah.
Then it was, hey, you want to come up to Buffalo? And I was like, no, man, I'm done. Thanks. But, it was just one of those things where I just didn't get lucky. My slot, my opportunity went away. And then when it came back again, it was like, nah, I don't really want to play in Buffalo. I grew up outside of Cleveland, Ohio, so I know where Buffalo is.
Yeah.
And I know what Buffalo's weather's like, and I'll pass.
Oh man, that's
Sorry,
crazy.
Buffalo. I apologize.
That's still though that opportunity. Like I think that life is one of those things that it's a series of connections, and like you being in that situation and getting to meet Jim Kelly would have never given you that opportunity if you hadn't met him. And that's just a great story.
It was literally out at a club called Cooters back in the day, and I ran into him, and he kind of was like, "Do I know you?" I said, "Well, no, not really." I said, "You took my job, man." And he's like, "I did?" Well, not really. I mean, you're a first round draft pick. I'm a nobody. So no,
Right.
You really didn't. It was yours walking in.
Yeah. That's the thing though, like those types of things don't put you, like if that didn't happen, you wouldn't be on the path that you are. And that's the biggest thing that I've noticed is that my path is generated by a series of events, whether I agree, like you said, it is what it is. And whether I agree with what they are or not, I have a choice, right? I have the choice to continue pushing myself down this path or not, and that's kind of the thing.
Yeah, and I've had a lot of buddies and stuff that a lot of us are what we call near misses. Guys that had opportunities and it didn't quite pan out, and it ends up working out just fine. My body's not beat up. I'm in fine shape. I'm older now and running every day, and a lot of those guys that played in the league don't because their bodies are really, really beat up. So there's positive and negatives to everything.
Yeah, well, and that story about your strength coach telling you, hey, you got to figure out a way to make this work later on. I mean, how many of these guys do you see that have figured that out? I mean, Jeff Saturday is a great example from the Indianapolis Colts, who was a center. He was this big old giant dude, and now all of a sudden he's like slimmed down and he's in his post-NFL life, and this is what he had to do. He had to figure out how to actually be a part of society after the NFL was over, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sitting on a Southwest Airlines flight, and I look across, and a guy's got a big old ring on his hand, and I know what that ring is. It's a Super Bowl ring, and it's big old ring, and the guy's probably 165, maybe 175. Nothing impressive, 5'11 ish, right? And of course, I stick my hand out and I introduce myself, and I say, "Hi, I'm Robert Watson," and he says, "Hi, I'm Norm Bulash," and I went, "Huh?" That was the fullback for the Colts.
Right.
And I'm looking at him going, and I got big eyes, and he goes, "Yeah, I'm a little smaller." I went, "Yeah, that would be one way of putting it, like 65 pounds smaller."
Yeah. You
But
have to figure that out.
yeah, because you can't carry that around. You can't do that to your body.
Yeah. Yeah. I was before I do what I do now, because I sell window coverings now. It's kind of like the third job that I've had in my life. I was a PE teacher, and that was kind of one of the things. Like, there's all these kids who love the lifetime activities, which I think are great, or love like doing sports and things like that. But in high school, you're at this point where your life isn't going to be, there's all these kids who play baseball, because I coached as well. They played baseball, they played football, they played soccer, and they think that they're going to go on to go play in college sports. And I said, here's the statistic, and it's like 0.00000. So you need to learn how to do this, because this is what you're going to do with the rest of your life. If you're going to be active, you may be playing on some softball team, you may be playing on some club soccer team or whatever, but that's not going to go anywhere. You need to learn how to exercise. You need to learn how to be in shape. You need to learn how to run, lift weights, and do those things that you can do. And it's not organized. And I think that's something that I lost, because I was in an organized, like, I thought about football. I played sports. These are things that I did. But when that was over, the biggest disservice I did to myself was I didn't teach myself how to do the things that I could do after.
Yeah, that this whole the wisdom that Bob gave me didn't really take hold until the millennial. And basically on the millennial, I had went in and out of shape a couple times. Former athletes are always, we're horrible about things.
Yeah.
We get into shape and then we go out of shape. And I had 4 kids and all that kind of stuff. So I get to the millennial and I just say, okay, this is over. I'm done. I'm tired of going in and out of shape. It hurts too damn much to try to get back in shape. I'm just going to stay in shape for the rest of my life. That's it. End of story. Thank you. I'm done.
Yeah.
And I made that commitment, and I've worked out every day for almost 22 years.
So your posts always have kind of what you did with running. You have a streak of running every day, right? So how long is that streak right now?
2,729 days, I think, this morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, 27, short of 7.5 years.
Yeah. Talk about that a little bit. What's the importance of running for you? Why did you pick that up?
Because I hate it.
That's a good one.
Come on, man. As a former athlete, you know how much you hated running, because running was punishment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Think about it. Anytime we screwed up, basketball, football, baseball, what would they make us do? Run.
Yep.
They didn't teach us to be runners. They teach us to avoid running at all costs. So I was not a fan of running. So I said, I need something cardio, and I'm going to do something that makes me miserable. I'm going to do it every day, and I don't care. And so that's why I started the streak. I said, you know what? If I can do this with something I don't like, if I can get myself out of bed at 4 o'clock in the morning with something I don't like, imagine what I can do.
Is that where it starts out, at 4 o'clock in the morning? That's when you're up?
Yeah, 4 o'clock.
Explain that process a little bit, because I think that there's all these processes that people go through. So is it your shoes are by your bed and you just jump in your shoes and you just go? How do you do it?
Oh God, you have to. Listen, you have to make getting up and getting out the door the easiest thing the world has ever seen. So basically, my shoes are there, my clothes are there. I make a post to my Instagram site that gives my quote for the day, whatever it's going to be. I post it on my Instagram, and then I haul butt. And I run, do my run. Usually it's between 4 and 5 miles, about 38-ish, 39 minutes. And basically at the entire time, I've used it as a creative process. So during my run, I'm thinking about what I want to do in the day. I'm thinking about how things fit together. I'm thinking about, for example, what I want to say to you today.
Yeah.
Okay. So, because I don't want to be on script, what's important that needs to be said. So I put that in my head. I load it up. I try it out. And surprisingly, sometimes I answer calls and stuff while I'm running. But yeah, that's basically by 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm done, showered, and maybe sometimes I go back and take another nap, fall off to sleep, or that my day begins, just depending on how things go.
Yeah. Well, it's funny.
But you have to make it easy on yourself.
Yeah. I think it's crazy because, like, I feel like things happen for a reason. Kind of like I'm listening to David Goggins' book right now, and he's talking about, I don't know if you've read that, but
Oh gosh, yes, yeah.
yeah, I listen to books while I drive around because my job is driving around, and I've been listening to him, and it's amazing because he said almost the same thing. It's like, I hated it. I hate it. I hate it. And I do the things that I hate because it makes me uncomfortable, and making myself uncomfortable is what makes me better.
Yes. And that's the hardest thing to tell people. And I always, like when I made the quote this morning, that we should be careful to surround ourselves with people that are more like our future than our past.
Yeah.
I know how offensive that is to some people, because that basically kind of suggests to them that some of those friends that are not really good for them, that they've had for 20 years, are not really good for them.
Right.
Well, guess what? They're not really good for you. Is that offensive? Yeah, I guess it is. So that's why I couch it with should and probably should, and ideas where you can just look at it and reflect on it, as opposed to me saying to you, hey, you need to get these people out of your life.
Yeah, and when I saw that this morning, I was just like, man, these are the things that I like to think about, because I think that it's the same thing. It's like, I think about when you're around someone who is talking negatively, where your mental state goes. And changing the way that I thought in the last, 3 years, this has kind of been a journey for me where I'm trying to be that more positive person, because I was always like, if it happens, I'm happy. If it's not, I'm not expecting it. So that's not a way that I felt really good about myself living my life that way, because I want to see the future, and I want to know where it's going and what's going to happen. And I put myself in those situations. So if you stick yourself in a situation where success is not going to happen, where someone's telling you that you're not good enough, where someone's bogging down the ideas that you have, where someone's not creative like that, then you're not going to be creative. You're going to be lost.
It's the research. One of the things you'll see in my forthcoming book is the research suggests that we spend 40% of our time, our free time, with 5 people.
Yep.
5. These are the 5 people, and one, of course, is your spouse.
Yep.
And, if these people are not lifting you up and kind of demanding that you be better, okay, then, you're going backwards. You're not going forwards. I mean, as ugly as that sounds, you should truthfully marry someone that makes you better, that really demands that of you, and that you're glad to. When you look at them and you go, you know what, I got to be better for her, or I got to be better for him, however it is. But, you bring up an interesting part of this whole process that we all struggle with. And it is, I want to go from point A to point B, and point B is somewhere in the future. And what I don't understand is I don't have a very big picture of point B. I don't really know how to get to point B. And I really don't know how to get the information that gets me to point B. But other than that, I want to be at point B. And I just said, think about it this way. One of the things that Tom Brady had to do was, when he realized his career was going to go into the second decade, he started changing the way he thought. And he said, what does it take to play in the league for 25 years? I mean, come on, start unwrapping that. Come out of college thinking, I want to play in the league for 25 years. What does that thinking look like? That's some amazing stuff.
Yeah.
Because now you're changing everything you do. Like, you want to go out to the bar tonight? No. Why? Because it doesn't help me play in the league for 25 years.
Yeah.
Right? Hey, you want to go out? This is girl you're really attracted to. Well, hold on a second. She's not going to help me be in the league for 25 years. Exactly. All of a sudden, everything starts changing. And we also don't realize that change, I love the analogy of flying. As a pilot, I am virtually never on course. I am always adjusting because the elements are always adjusting. Yes, we've drawn a map between A and B, but the fact is I'm constantly adjusting and it doesn't bother me. It's normal. It's like you're always adjusting. People are like, well, God, that must feel weird that it's always uncertain. I said, no, you just fly.
Yeah.
And you're always making changes. And so the process of change is incrementally tiny to get to where you want. And the information you have to have, the map you have to get there, needs to come from a source that you understand.
Right.
And the data has to be good. It doesn't do you any good to read crap data about how to lose weight. Let me tell you the formula for losing weight: increase your cardio, decrease your intake. That's it.
Yep.
Okay, I am now a guru of losing weight.
Yep.
That's it.
It is 100%. I
That's
mean,
it.
you gotta put less in here and increase your output.
That's it.
Yeah.
We're a machine. Now, granted, everybody's body's a little different and all
Right.
that kind of stuff. But man, you go on TikTok, and there are some people, specifically the women, who have absolutely transformed their bodies. They're just, I mean, come on, pound for pound, they're twice the athlete that I am.
Yeah.
Easy. They're just fantastic athletes. And what they've done is they looked at their life at a certain point in time and they said, you know what it's going to take to change? Incremental. It's going to take me to show up every single solitary day
Yeah.
to get me there. And that's a lot, because people will just say, I'm going to go on Tuesday and Friday.
Right.
Okay. You're going to get the results of going on Tuesday and Friday.
Yeah. Oh man.
And it was funny because one of them put a video out and she said, isn't it interesting in the video isn't it interesting how it's okay to get bad habits that are socially acceptable? But she says, when my friends call me and say, where are you going? She says, the gym. And they're like, why are you going to the gym? She's laughing, going, do you see what I look like? How do you think I got there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's you get what you get what you put into it. And I love that. Tom Brady, love him or hate him, like there's so many people who dislike him, but
Right.
the fact of the matter is that that's it. He stayed the course, like he's the person who is thinking that far into the future about. That's a great analogy. Yeah. I mean, you got to think about that. You think about what the end result is. And I think about like what I'm doing now myself. And, a lot of things is like, you have to just double down. That's all there is to it. Because if you don't, then it's not like, if you really want something, you can't just expect to show up, today and not tomorrow. You have to show up every single day.
It's not a lightning bolt. Yeah, it's not a lightning bolt. I'll tell you what impressed me most about Brady. Yeah, Super Bowls, all that stuff. What impressed me is there was a Sunday night game, and he goes up to get an interview, and the interviewer's kind of going on a little long. He says, listen, my kids came and my wife came. I got to go. They got to go to school in the morning. I got to get them back. And I'm like looking at him going, okay, now that's a superstar.
Yeah.
That's a man who's sitting there thinking about his family and going, man, I got to get him home. Yep. Wow. That's impressive.
He's prioritizing those things. And that's something that I talked about this week myself in my own post. It's like, you have to, even if it's scheduling your time down to the minute, you have to find a way to prioritize what you're doing in order to get done what you want to get done.
Well, the other thing which is so fascinating, and you're doing such a wonderful job with this podcast of learning from others. What's so fascinating to me is I can sit there and look at somebody, and if somebody, we know this as athletes, we're always watching other people's performances, right?
Yeah.
Trying to glean what could make us a little better, right?
Right.
Well, as pilots, you'll see us at the airfield watching everyone's landings. Kind of like all the pilots, you can tell, all the people who are non-pilots are looking and talking and stuff. All the pilots are looking at the landings. Why? They're just judging.
Yep.
Everybody's trying to improve. And when you see people that will ask you a question and say, hey, they're going through a struggle and blah, 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 and they're doing this and that. And then I'll say something to them and they say, yeah, I got a couple thousand hours of counseling. I did my master's work in psychology. And they don't ask another question.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking to myself, I just told you. I just laid my credentials down and you didn't even ask a question. That's weird.
Yeah.
Because if I'm going to a guy and I want to play a position in the NFL and I've got a chance to be under Tom Brady, I'm in his back pocket.
Right. Yeah, you want to
Right?
glean that info. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like if this guy is doing this, I want to do everything that this guy is doing so that I can be better or equal to him. It's
Exactly.
yeah. And
And I'm not going to let even the smallest detail go. I'm looking at every detail going, well, how does he lay out his locker? Is there some secret to that?
yeah,
Is it his bag? Is it his supplements? What in the world makes him who he is?
yeah,
And I think that's what you're doing. This is really cool with this podcast is you're asking the questions, what are they doing?
yeah. Well, it's efficiency. I mean, I revisited another book that and that's the thing. Like in college, I'm going to tell you, I have a master's degree in education. Those books that they made us read or told us that we had to read, I read very little, and I had like
Yeah.
a 3.8 GPA in my bachelor's, and then with my master's, it was all writing papers. I had a 4.0. I never cracked any of those books. It was all from my life experience that I wrote and the things that I did. And in the last 3 years, I have read more books and learned more things from people than I ever did in my formal education, just
Yep.
by following what they're saying. And that's why I love this. That's why I think that this is great, because I can learn information from you. You've been there, you've been through it, and you learned it from someone else who's been there and been through it. Like we talked about, life's a collaboration, and it's just great. Like that's the biggest thing that I could tell people is listen to the information, mirror what someone else is doing that you want to do, and you're going to find the things you need to find to be successful in what you're trying to do.
I had, again, part of my former life was I've been in martial arts since 79. And being in martial arts that long, I've learned from some of the very best. And what you do is you mimic, straight on mimicking.
Yeah.
Somebody does that, you do exactly what they do. There's not a whole lot of conversation, right? It's
Yeah.
all practice. It's all over and over and over again. And you start to realize over time, that's really what you want to do. So you literally learn how somebody does something by doing it,
Yeah.
by experiencing it. And that's all the things that I've learned through my life. And that's one of the biggest problems with the way information's taken in is people are taking people's opinions. And I'm like, no, don't use their opinion. Okay, if you think their opinion might be valid, go try it on yourself.
Right. Yeah.
Just go try it out.
It's an experiment. It's trying to see what it's like you talked about, like with dieting. It's like, yes, it is calories in, calories out. Some people running works, some people cycling works, some people lifting weights work. But the fact of the matter is you have to burn those calories in a certain way, and you have to figure out what way works best for you, and then you implement it. And
a friend had asked the question about psychology, and I said, all the modalities are really a toolbox. There is no cookie cutter.
yeah,
You sit down with somebody, and everybody. I always like to say, I have never met an ordinary person.
exactly.
Everybody's unique. Everybody's got a cool background. Everybody's got a story, and consequently, trying to use a cookie cutter on someone, not very efficient.
Yeah.
So you kind of take the tools out and you go, hey, okay, what works here? And you realize that's the way life is. You got to just keep trying.
Yep.
And there's a neat lady, Miss Winderley, and she's a South African, and she calls herself one of the greatest failures. And she labeled herself the 23rd princess. And she's just an incredible lady. And what it is what she's learned from failure.
Uh-huh.
And trial and error is what? Mostly error.
Yes.
It's not success.
Yeah. That's an important thing that I think that people, and I mean, we can speculate on the things that cause this to happen, but I mean, a lot of it, I think, is that people are thinking that they're successful even when they do, like they're given, like the trophy situation. It's like, all right, everyone gets a trophy. Well, not everyone does get a trophy, right? Because there was first, second, and third place. And if we give first, second, and third place, they think that they were successful in winning a championship. And it's not. It's like number one won. Number two lost. Number three did not win. And if you can make that cut and dry distinction, then you'll understand that if you didn't win, if you didn't get first place, what can you do as that third place person next time to get to first place?
I was in high school and I won MVP of a tournament, but we finished second. What I did with that trophy when they handed it to me was I put a towel over it, right? Because who the hell cares if I'm the MVP of the losing team?
Exactly.
I mean, what does that mean? I was the MVP of the tournament, but I lost.
Yeah.
No. Just throw a towel over it and then walk away.
I can understand that completely. I've been there. You didn't win. I mean, that's the
Didn't
number
win.
one thing.
Can I trade this trophy for first place, please?
Yes. Oh, so you have a book coming out. Let's talk a little bit about this because I'm
Right.
intrigued.
Right. It's called Thinking for Tomorrow. And it basically is allowing you to learn predictive thinking. In other words, you can basically, and what I did on the website, Beyond the Hype media, was I went back last year and I started predicting things. I said, hey, incidentally, you guys, Russia's going to invade Ukraine. I said that in September. And I went through and told people, hey, you're going to have inflation. Oh, incidentally, you might want to sell Bitcoin here at 66,000. Incidentally, earlier in this year, I said, hey, incidentally, don't buy houses. Be a seller, not a buyer of housing. Well, no, but I said, trust me, just do it. And all you're doing is learning predictive thinking, not because it's an ego-based activity like, congratulations, you did this right. No. It's a B leads to C mentality of, it's going to happen. I don't know exactly when it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. It's like gravity in this case. And so that's what the book is designed to do. It's designed to help you learn to predictively think forward. Then you reverse engineer it for your own life. And you say, okay, I want to go to C. How do I get there? Well, this is what it would look like. Okay, now I know what I got to do.
Yeah.
So you can do it both ways.
And it's a lot about like what we've just been talking about for the last half an hour is just knowing where you want to get and then figuring out the steps to get there to get where you want to get.
Right. And the fact is you don't really know what they are. And one of the things you'll do is you just kind of point yourself in persistence. Like I didn't know how to run 7.5 years through hurricanes, injuries. I didn't know how to do that.
Yeah.
How the heck would I know how to do that? I only know it now that I've got it. So what I call this is mastering imperfections.
Yep.
You become a master of imperfections because life is very imperfect. Every situation, everything is imperfect. And what you do is you just get good at it.
Yeah.
It's like you're a MacGyver of your life. It's like, how do I get there? I'm running today. You know, there's a Category 5 hurricane out there. Don't care.
Yep.
Okay, how am I going to run? Where can I run? How's it going to happen? When does the storm lull? Where's the eye of the storm? I mean, you start doing stuff like that.
Right.
What? Because I'm going to run. I'm going to get it done.
Yeah.
Why am I going to get it done? Because I don't fail.
Yep.
That's it. And did I know what that looked like? Hell no, I didn't know it. How would I know what that looked like?
Right.
I've never been there.
Yep. Oh man, it's a great story. I look forward to seeing this book, and we could talk all day, but I want to be cognizant of your time. I appreciate you taking the time to be on here. You blog, you TikTok, you Instagram, you're writing a book. Is there anything else anyone needs to know where to find you? What do you want to tell everyone?
No, I'm pretty much there. You can pretty much see me on TikTok or Instagram or my website. And fire questions away. People will sometimes make long comments, and I don't care. It's great. Make long comments.
Yeah,
I love it. Interact with me, please. Question me, poke at me, prod at me. It all works.
Yeah. Well, you have some great life experiences, and I'm excited to see where this goes. I can't wait till your book comes out because I'm going to make sure I get it. I might have to mail it to you and have you sign it for me, but I'm excited to get it.
I'll make sure.
All right. Well, Robert, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. And I think that, after the book comes out, we probably ought to do this again and just talk about that as well.
That works. Wes, right. I appreciate you, brother.
Yeah. Thank you very much. All right, everyone. I think one of the key things to take away from there is that you always need to be learning. You always need to follow through and push and do the best things that you can to make yourself better every single day. Giving up is not an option. It's when you give up, that's when you fail, because you've quit. So remember, if there's a goal that you are looking for or trying to succeed in, you need to be willing to push yourself every single day. Until next time, I challenge you to find the shape of your success.